The O'Reilly Factor is on tonight.
Shooting three-point shots may be clever. What we need is a president, not an athlete.
Some people may suggest, because all black people are good athletes. I mean, that's what it sort of sounds like.
Once again, NBC News sees racism in a casual criticism of President Obama. We'll show you exactly what happened with Juan Williams, Mary Catherine Ham, and Bernie Goldberg analyzing. More racism charges from NBC News. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. It all began when Newt Gingrich, speaking before a Republican group, said this about President Obama's basketball prowess.
Shooting three-point shots may be clever, but it doesn't put anybody to work. And what we need is a president, not an athlete. We need somebody who actually focuses on getting people back to work.
Well, after hearing that, NBC News correspondent Norah O'Donnell saw racism and presented her case to some colleagues.
I mean, this was largely a good speech, Gingrich's speech about not being the party of no, let's be yes on this, but I'm not sure what he means by this particular soundbite, and I think it's open to some criticism because it suggests that the president is an athlete, and some people may suggest, because all black people are good athletes. I mean, that's what it sort of sounds like to me.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
That went right by me.
Yeah.
Jonathan
I will back you up because my eyebrow arched as well.
Well, that guy, Mr. Capehart, then went on to soften his remarks with the fact that a Washington Post editorial writer would even consider racism in Mr. Gingrich's statement is absurd, and points out just how far left some of the Washington Post people really are. Now, I believe Americans have pretty much had enough of this bogus racism garbage, not only when President Obama is criticized, but also in the elite media, which uses racism as a club to bludgeon anyone with whom they disagree. During the 2008 presidential campaign, for example, Bill Clinton was hammered by charges of racism when he referred to Jesse Jackson in the South Carolina primary. By all accounts, Mr. Clinton was furious that the far left branded him with the R word simply for giving a historical opinion. President Obama himself is not guilty in this sad situation. He's often said he's not the victim of racism and has made clear his disdain for people using that charge even when defending him. But there is no question that some of the president's biggest supporters are the biggest offenders when charges of racism arise. It might be good for Mr. Obama to say publicly they should knock it off. Talking Points well understands the bitterness that is sweeping the country. The right sees the Obama administration as a threat to what they want America to be. The left sees the attacks on the president as vicious and personal, therefore they reply in kind. All of this is destructive to the country. There are enough legitimate issues to debate without degenerating into personal attacks, especially where racism is invoked. From now on, Talking Points will alert you to people trafficking in this. It's despicable. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction. Joining us now from Washington, Mary Catherine Ham, and from Madison, Wisconsin, Juan Williams. Both of the Fox News analysts. So, Juan, are you a good athlete? Are you a good athlete, Juan?
I played high school basketball. We won some championships, but that's about it.
Well, Juan, I'm disappointed because, according to Ms. O'Donnell, all black people are good athletes. So, therefore, any reference.
I wish I was like LeBron James. I could, or Usain Bolt. I could make hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to be schlepping out to Madison to give a speech. You could be just shooting hoops. But look, I don't think. I have to be honest. I don't think Ms. O'Donnell is a bad person or meant anything bad in what she said. I just think it was dopey. But it's racist to say that all black people are good athletes. Is it not? Might not be negative, but it's certainly,
No, but
isn't it?
It's a racist assumption. It's a stereotype, right? And as such, what it does is put people in a box and say, oh, so if you can play some basketball, you must be black, and therefore all this distorted logic applies. I think what we've got here is what you touched on in the talking points. It's an effort by people on the left to take the power of the civil rights movement. Everybody agrees, voting rights, civil rights, that was good. And then they take that and they attach it to, and President Obama did this, to the passage of health care legislation and say anybody who disagrees, therefore, is illegitimate and to be silenced. They're to be ignored. And the right says, hey, we can't play that game. This is not the same thing. This is very different. And so now we have people fighting over the language of civil rights when it comes down to simple, legitimate criticism of the president's policies.
Now, what do you think, Mary Catherine? Do you think Norah O'Donnell is malicious? Do you think she's misinformed? I mean, because this took me, when I saw this, I didn't watch the show, but when I saw this on tape, I said, no, this can't be possible. But it is.
Well, first of all, I'm saddened and shocked to have my own athletic contribution to the Brogdon Middle School basketball team denigrated just because of my race by Norah O'Donnell. So that's one thing. I was a defensive MVP. But second of all, I think the problem is, Miss O'Donnell would recoil at the idea that she is playing upon stereotypes here, but that's in fact what she's doing. She's putting the words in someone else's mouth, but she's the one who went there. And I would suggest to liberal journalists that when they hear a Republican talk about the president and his love for basketball, which is well documented, it's not some sort of thing that Newt made up, that if the first thing their mind goes to is a common stereotype about black people, then they might be the ones with the racial hang-ups.
But
now, they're using that as a tool to go after Republicans, but it's inappropriate.
Isn't it true, Mary Catherine, that most NBA players are black? Therefore, if you mention the National Basketball Association and Barack Obama, that you are drawing attention to his skin color? Because most NBA players certainly are black, are they not?
Look, it's just ridiculous. Barack Obama is a sports fan. He is a good basketball player. He shoots very well. And he's made it a point to make sure that everyone knows that. Talking about that and is not unfair.
Well, he's not a good
baseball player. Do I think it's okay for him to play
I'll tell you that.
Sure.
I've seen him throw out the first pitch twice now, and I'm going to have to go out to Citi Field and photograph myself showing him how to do it. So Norah O'Donnell is, he's not a good baseball player. Now, Juan, in a serious vein, and we talked about this with the infamous Sylvia deal a few years ago, I and many other white journalists now don't do nearly as many reports on African Americans or their problems because we don't want to be put in a situation where our opinion is taken out of context, rammed down our throat, as Media Matters and all these other sleazoids do. So unless it's a big thing, if it's an optional thing where I used to do it, I'm not doing it anymore. If I go to Sylvia's restaurant, a primarily black restaurant, very fine, in Harlem, I'm not going to say a word about it anymore, which is not good for Sylvia's because she got a lot of good publicity from that. Go ahead, Juan.
Yeah. As I recall, you went with Al Sharpton, but they want to make something out of it because you say this is a great restaurant. Say, oh, so he must think something else.
Yeah,
he expected something
what?
less
He
from a
wasn't
black
expecting
restaurant.
it to be a good
bizarre.
restaurant? That racist.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Look, but here's the serious point, Bill. This is an example by Norah O'Donnell of crying wolf. And when you do that with regard to race, then people who come along with serious racial concerns about racial inequities in the society that still exist, they can't have a conversation. Suddenly you say, no, you're always talking about race. We're sick of race. We don't want to hear about race. That's what happens when you use it cheaply. And the second thing to say is, guess what? There are lots of people in the black community who think President Obama should be doing more about the high rate of unemployment in the black community. That's so for them to say, oh, he's shooting basketball instead of paying attention to the economy, you might get the same criticism out of several people in the black community today who want him to do more to address high rates of unemployment.
Let's give Mary Catherine the last word. Go.
Yeah, I think in addition to what Juan's saying, which I agree with, there is also just this incredible paralysis on a conversation when you, like you said, Bill, when you have to worry about these things being taken out of context, when you have to be so incredibly sensitive because you can't even mention basketball without it becoming a race issue. I think there is it detracts from actually having a decent political discussion. And if Barack Obama truly is the guy of the more perfect union speech, his famous race speech, I think he would do more to say something about the crime.
Yeah, I would like to see him put an end to this once and for all. Okay, thank you.
And Bill, you should stay tough on these race stories.
All right, I will try.